I will never follow this advice. And people who tell you to do this, do they mean well for you? No. No, 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 no. All right, y'all. So welcome back to my channel, Gina J from Around the Way. So, all right, let's get right into it. I was met with some parenting advice that was just horrible. Horrible, horrible, horrible. And sometimes when you get advice, you really have to be mindful of what who it's coming from and where they are in like emotional and mental health, and this person is not like mentally ill or anything like that, but mainly if they haven't done the work that you've done and they don't process things in a way that you've come to do, then you're not going to be in alignment in how you view things, right? So a family member suggested that I suck it up for the sake of my son. And let's talk about how common that is, but how misguided it is at the very same time. When they were referring to sucking it up, it's the fact that certain people are going to be around my son, or my ex-husband's going to be around, and I just need to be cordial. And when they go low, we go high, and just, speak and, do the classy thing. It's not unclassy for me not to say anything at all. I don't have to pretend. But if somebody is around me that I don't like, that I don't feel comfortable around, that I don't feel safe around emotionally, that triggers me, I don't have to force myself to show some type of class or good decorum in order for everybody around us to feel comfortable. And especially for the sake of my son. I think that people just are so used to performing, and that doing the right thing has been so ingrained, even though doing the right thing in their mind is totally the wrong thing. And when you think about these situations, you really have to wonder what messaging you're giving to the audience around you, right? Because what I'm not going to do is fake the funk. I cannot do that. I've never been good at that. Never been good at faking my hi or how are you? There are certain instances at work maybe where you have to be a little bit more tolerable to that behavior. But outside of that, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Betraying my feelings and ignoring trust issues is just a bad example for my son, because honestly, he's going to mimic that behavior. I've seen my mom go above and beyond for people in the day that were visibly mistreating her or talking shit about her or, whatever towards her. And I would look like, why are you allowing that to happen? But that people pleasing then started to etch in me, and I started to behave in ways like that too, where I didn't feel good or comfortable around anybody, but because it was expected for me to be respectful and show decorum, I did that. And it's a violation to yourself. So I don't want my son to ever feel like he has to interact with someone or show face in front of someone or towards someone for my comfort or anybody else's comfort. No. If my son has a valid reason, or even if he doesn't have a valid reason, if he just doesn't feel the person, he doesn't have to engage. Now, I'm not going to say, don't speak in a room, or you come in and say hello or whatever, but I'm not going to force you to talk to somebody or interact with somebody or fake any type of dialogue with somebody because I want to show a good example. No. If a situation does not feel good to you and it triggers you in any way, you have every right to keep yourself away from it. And in my instance, when it comes to my ex-husband, and it comes to the significant other and all of the mess that they've caused my life, I choose to keep my distance and say nothing. And I want my son to understand I'm uncomfortable around them, and discomfort is A-okay. It is A-okay. And I think it's important to make sure that that we as adults and children can lead with their gut feelings, that they can honor how they feel, that they can really allow themselves to exercise whatever boundary they need to feel safe in their bubble of person. If my ex-husband was a better human and decided to try to make amends and stop talking to me like a crazy person and just be a decent human, we wouldn't be here. But he continues to interact with me like a monster, right? Whether it's verbally or whether it's by certain actions or whether it's by these silo decisions that I'm just like, how the heck did you even come to that conclusion? He's continued to behave that way. I have no niceties for you. It's not going to exist, right? So I will teach my son the same exact thing, and the way that I pay attention to my child, I also see when he's uncomfortable. I also see when he doesn't feel safe to say something, either because the other side has demonstrated otherwise or said otherwise, or there's an objection there. And even in that, I correct my child and I said, well, if that's what you're hearing and that's how something was explained to you, that's not correct. Let me explain it to you. Let me talk you through it, right? Because I think that also certain people try to ingrain things in people's head and your children even so, and they're such sponges that they get confused. And in these situations, when we're dealing with feelings and guts and safety and emotional triggers and things like that, for children is exceptionally sensitive because they don't have the words that we do, right? So why would I put myself in the position to exhibit a behavior that goes against what my gut feels and what my comfort level is, right? If everybody is this uncomfortable because I choose not to speak to that person, oh well, I don't owe you any comfort again. So that's just something to be mindful of when you're interacting with people in general. And I don't know if it's a Leo thing, but when I don't fuck with you, I don't fuck with you. If I don't like you, I don't like you. And again, only at work do I stomach that a little different just because it's my livelihood and I need my paycheck. But outside of work, with people that I'm supposed to feel safe around, which are my friends and my family, if I don't feel that with you, and you constantly are pushing boundaries, are poking the bear, or messing with me, I ain't got nothing for you. You get no energy, right? And I'm going to allow my son to exercise that same thing, right? And I'm going to make sure that I'm not that toxic parent where he has to exercise that with me, When it comes to the optics versus the reality, I'm always going to choose what is authentic, what feels right in the moment. And because every time I've tried to play scenarios of how something would go or how I need to react to something before it happens, it always goes left. Even let's just use family, right? Certain family situations, you're not always prepared for what the person's going to do, say, how they're going to show up or anything like that. So with that, I always act authentic in the way that feels best for me in that moment. If I'm choosing not to say something, I won't. If I choose to say something, I will, because for me, integrity is important. So I really wanted to keep this video short just because I think that sometimes I feel like we're moving ahead when it comes to emotional well-being and how we express ourselves and how we can protect ourselves and our boundaries and things like that. But then certain people will sprinkle like some really old ideologies and frame of thought when it comes to how we interact with one another that I'm just like, how are we still here? Right? And in this space of where I'm at in life and co-parenting and everything else, I am prioritizing my peace. I am prioritizing my emotional safety. And for my son's well-being, I am doing the same. And anything that disturbs that peace does not get my attention. And I really wish I could exercise that by not dealing with like my ex-husband at all. But, that's just not realistic, because I co-parent. But man, I will say that relationship has forced me to figure out how to honor my feelings and my gut feelings and the triggers that my body is telling me, whether it's anxiety or those tingles or immense like heat, sometimes like literally feel hot in certain situations because I am so triggered by whatever, right? And we need to honor that. So don't let people try to trick you into thinking that you have to perform or behave a certain way for the sake of the children. You really don't. You really, really don't. And I think you're showing a healthier boundary by not behaving that way versus forcing it, because kids are very intuitive. They see right through the fakeness, and they'll be able to tell. They will be able to tell that something is off, that mommy or daddy is acting weird, and it's because you're uncomfortable. And it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay not to force yourself to do things that you don't want to do. And if that thing that you don't want to do is speak to somebody, don't speak to them. Period. All right. Anyway, I wanted to keep it short and simple. If my content is resonating with you, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you are into social media at all, I am on all the social media handles shared above. Yeah. And I will see y'all next time. All right. All right.